Attention passionate Green Bay Packers fans. Latest news, something big is happening in the NFC North and it could change the game. We're talking about a direct impact on Green Bay Packers' path to another Super Bowl run, a power shift that could leave a division rival stumbling for years. We're bringing this to you firsthand. But before that, if you're a true Green Bay Packers fan, subscribe to the channel to strengthen this passion even more. Show that you're also part of this family. Let's help each other reach 1,000 subscribers. Share with your friends and Green Bay Packers fans. Let's get to the news alright, folks. Today we're diving deep into a story that's been buzzing around the NFL circles, especially among Packers fans who are eagerly watching how their team is shaping up for the upcoming season. And trust me, this isn't just any rumor, it's a story that could have major implications for the Packers' future, especially on the defensive line. So buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you might just change the way you see the Packers' roster and their strategy moving forward. Recently, there's been some interesting chatter about the Packers' defensive front, particularly about Lucas Van Ness. Now, Van Ness was a first-round pick in the 2023 NFL Draft, a player many saw as a potential game-changer coming out of Iowa. He's got all the physical tools, size, explosiveness, and the kind of raw talent that made him a top-tier draft selection. But despite the high expectations, things haven't quite panned out as many hoped. Over his 2 seasons in Green Bay, Van Ness has recorded just 7 sacks. That might not seem like a lot for someone drafted so high, but it's important to understand the context here. Packers, under defensive coordinator Joe Barry, have been experimenting with their defensive scheme, and with the emergence of Micah Parsons as a full-time pass rusher for the Dallas Cowboys, the landscape of the NFL's pass rushing game has shifted dramatically. Now here's where it gets interesting. According to some reports, Van Ness might be the odd man out in Green Bay's plans. Why? Well, the Packers made a significant trade for Micah Parsons, pairing him up with Rashan Gary on the defensive line. Parsons, of course, is widely regarded as one of the premier pass rushers in the league today, and pairing him with Gary creates a formidable duo that the Packers are clearly banking on. If they continue to deploy both Parsons and Gary for the bulk of the snaps, Van Ness might find himself relegated to a backup role, which isn't ideal for a player of his draft position and talent level. That's why there's speculation that Green Bay might be open to trading him, especially if they can get good value in return. And here's the twist. The Philadelphia Eagles, a team that's been aggressive in bolstering their defense, are reportedly interested. The Eagles have been known for their stellar secondary and linebacker core, but their defensive line has also been a point of emphasis, especially after losing some key players in free agency. With that, the Eagles see Van Ness as a potential upgrade, someone who can bring a fresh burst of energy and talent to their front. They believe that a player like Van Ness could really elevate their defensive scheme under defensive coordinator Vic Fangio, who's renowned for his innovative approaches and ability to maximize his pass rushers. Think about it for a second. The Eagles, with their wealth of draft capital and a roster that's ready to contend, might see Van Ness as a perfect fit. Not only does he add depth, but he also offers a legitimate chance to develop into a reliable starter. Given their need after losing Josh Sweat in free agency, acquiring Van Ness on a low-stakes trade could be a smart move. It's not just about filling a roster spot, it's about adding someone who could potentially become a cornerstone in their defensive line for years to come, especially if he gets the right coaching and playing time. But let's not forget the Packers' perspective here. They're in a bit of a window where winning a Super Bowl is a priority. They've built a roster that's competitive, and with players like Rashan Gary and Micah Parsons already establishing themselves as dominant forces, the team is clearly aiming for a deep playoff run. So, if trading Van Ness can help them free up cap space or bring in draft picks or other assets that could bolster their roster, it makes sense from a strategic standpoint. Especially since Van Ness, despite his raw talent, hasn't quite shown the consistency or production that would justify a long-term commitment if the team's goal is to maximize their Super Bowl chances right now. Now, it's also worth mentioning some other teams that are watching this situation closely. The Los Angeles Chargers, for example, have a deep linebacker core but are somewhat shallow on the defensive line. Players like Dashon Hand and Otito Ogbonnia have potential, but they might benefit from a fresh start and a veteran presence like Van Ness. Similarly, the Washington Commanders, who have been making moves this offseason, are looking to shore up their trenches after losing Dante Fowler. They've signed Dietrich Wise Jr. and Javon Kinlaw, but adding Van Ness to their rotation could provide the reliable depth they need to push for a playoff spot. And let's not forget the Carolina Panthers. They've been busy signing Tershawn Wharton and Bobby Brown, but their defensive line still needs more talent, especially after losing some key players last season. Van Ness could be a valuable backup for Derek Brown, who's coming off a season-ending injury. The Panthers' front is still a work in progress, and adding a young, promising player like Van Ness could be exactly what they need to solidify their front seven. So, why is this story so significant for Packers fans? Well, it signals a potential shift in the roster strategy. The Packers aren't just holding onto Van Ness out of loyalty or hope. They're actively evaluating what fits best with their Super Bowl ambitions. If a trade materializes, it could open up opportunities for younger players or veteran acquisitions that better align with their current window of contention. Plus, it sends a message that the Packers are not afraid to make tough decisions if it means putting their best team on the field. Looking ahead, the NFL's landscape is constantly evolving, and the defensive front is more crucial than ever. Teams are emphasizing pass rush and disruptive defensive schemes to counter the high-powered offenses we see across the league. The Packers, with their talented core, are trying to stay ahead of the curve, and that might mean some roster moves that catch fans off guard. But ultimately, it's all about winning. And if trading Van Ness helps them do that, then it's a move that makes sense. Now, let's take a moment to appreciate what Van Ness's potential could be if he gets the right opportunity. He's still young, only in his second year, and has shown flashes of brilliance. With more playing time and a system that plays to his strengths, he could develop into a true difference maker. But the NFL is a business, and sometimes, the best move is to let go of a player who isn't fitting into the current scheme or who might be better suited elsewhere. That's the reality in today's NFL, and the Packers are no strangers to making bold moves to keep their Super Bowl window open. And this entire situation also highlights how interconnected the league has become. Every move a team makes can ripple across the entire NFL landscape. The Eagles, Chargers, Commanders, and Panthers are all watching closely, ready to pounce if the price is right. It's a chess game, and the Packers are players in this high-stakes match. As fans, we should keep a close eye on how this develops because it could very well define the next chapter in Green Bay's quest for another championship. So in summary, the story of Lucas Van Ness might seem like just another roster shuffle, but it's so much more than that. It's about team building, strategic planning, and seizing opportunities when they come. For Packers fans, it's a reminder that the front office is always looking to improve, always aiming for that elusive Super Bowl victory. And who knows? Maybe this potential trade is just the beginning of a new chapter in Green Bay's storied history. Pause here just for a second. If you want the YOUTUBE algorithm to keep recommending the latest Green Bay Packers news to you, it's super important that you leave a like on this video. Go ahead, it's quick and it makes a big difference. Thank you. Now let us continue with the big reveal. And now, Green Bay Packers fans, I want to hear from you. What's your take on this? Do you think trading Van Ness is the right move? Or do you believe the young pass rusher can still develop into a key piece of the team's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Your opinion matters so much to us and to the Green Bay Packers. Remember, I'll be back soon with more updates, so stay tuned for the latest Green Bay Packers news. The NFL offseason is always full of surprises, and this story is just getting started. Thanks for sticking with me, and as always, go Pack Go!